Good morning. Good morning. How is everyone on today? Um, I wanted to go live and this time talk about a couple of stories or a few stories that are trending. Um, One of them is um, about the young woman that actually unalived her boyfriend. Actually, in back in April, they were in a Miami apartment, and she actually unalived him. And there was a big story going on about this, and should she be charged? And her family and her were claiming domestic violence, and his family talked about how nice he was, and that he was really good to her. But one of the things that was important, good morning, hi, Miss Casey. One of the things about this story was a lot of people did not care for the young man because he came out and talked about how he did not care for Black women, and he didn't date Black women. So there were people that really came in hard on this young Black man and saying that they did not care because he did not care for Black women. So they did not care whether he was stabbed or not, whether he was murdered or not. And so I think it's important to understand that whether we like people or not, whether we agree with their comments or lifestyle, he still deserves justice as a human being. And I'm glad that she's not going to get away with this situation. She's not going to be able to just walk away from stabbing this man. She took his life, she unalived him. And obviously she wanted to try to get away with it. She felt like that she could get away with it. And so I'm going to get into this story. And you know that she was an Instagram influencer. She was actually an Instagram influencer. And so I want to get into this story. And then we'll talk about the woman and the daughter that have been arrested for a termination of life, of the baby and she was 17 at the time. So we'll talk about that story as well. And I want to really get your opinion on that because a lot of people are not really talking about it as much. And I think that we should talk about it more than what's being talked about. So let's get into it about the influencer. But there's also another story as well, exactly, about a Black couple having a white baby. But let's get into this story right here. So it says the influencer charged in stabbing murder of boyfriend inside Miami apartment. And if you all remember this story, she was an Instagram influencer. She is now being charged with the murder. Her name is Courtney Clenny. She's a 26-year-old OnlyFans model. If people remember this story, she was taken into custody on Wednesday in Hawaii after being charged with second-degree murder with a deadly weapon in connection April 3rd in the death of her boyfriend. And he was 27-year-old Christian Ambonsali. And this was, if you remember the story, the Miami Herald printed this story. And so the Miami-Dade District State Attorney's Office is set to hold a press conference about the arrest on Thursday afternoon, citing in a press conference that the arrest report is sealed, but that a social media personality was charged in connection with Ambonsali's murder. What do you guys think about that? Do you think that she deserved to be charged for this man's murder? Putting your personal feelings aside, what do you think about that? And that's true. There's a lot going on, and I want to come out a lot more to talk about it, but you know how it is. Everybody's focused on, but there are other things that's happening in this world, and that's why we can't be silent. We can't be asleep. We have to be awoke. We have to be, not drunk, not slumber, but we have to be awoke because a lot of times laws get passed right past us because we're only focusing on certain stories that we're passionate about, which is nothing wrong with that. But there's still a lot of other things that are going on in the world that we as Black people or even just people of color need to talk about. So getting back to the story, it says Clenny's defense attorney, Frank Prieto, confirmed the charges to the Daily Beast and said his client had been at a Hawaiian rehab facility for PTSD. So maybe she was over there trying to get, to build her case, because maybe she suspected sometime in the future that she might be charged with this murder. So therefore, she went over to try to get treatment for PTSD, because a lot of times they claim mental illness, and so to help her case in the future, because that might be what she did. I'm not saying it is. I don't want to say that's true, but that could be why she was over there, because it's saying she was in Hawaii at a rehab facility getting treatment for PTSD. The lawyer added that they are disappointed that the state attorney sought an arrest warrant and noted that his client has cooperated with the investigation from the beginning. And so she is, I guess, claiming PTSD and went all the way to Hawaii. So she couldn't, maybe she went out to Hawaii because maybe it would have been a distraction to get it here in Miami. I'm not really sure. But anyway, that's her attorney talking. They always want to claim some type of mental illness when it comes down to protecting or defending their clients. However, it's saying we are completely shocked at Courtney's arrest based upon the clear evidence of self-defense in the matter. Prieto, who is the attorney, said. But you know what? She claimed self-defense when it first happened, if you all remember that. Now, Abunzali attacked her and choked her that evening. Courtney had no choice but to meet force with force. That is what her attorney is saying, is that he choked her, she choked him back, and she used force to take this man's life. And he goes on to say, we will vigorously defend Courtney and clear her of this unfounded and baseless charge, he added. Now, the Miami Police Department did not immediately respond to the Daily Beast comments. Now, the arrest makes the largest development in the investigation into the Grizzly slaying. And that is true, because remember, she was like walking around. She was with her dad after that, and she was seemed like she was smiling and happy. And, I just unalived someone, and now I'm walking around living my best life, while the family is trying to figure out what happened. They were still in shock, and then they wanted justice for their son. And this is something that they should, have arrested her for. They also, if I recall, they should have, and they also should, seek a trial by jury if some information come out to where she pleads guilty, but it doesn't sound like she is. So there should be a trial by jury to determine if it really was self-defense. So in the discovery part, they need to make sure that they find out what really happened. And was it really self-defense, or was she just, the aggressor in the relationship, as they stated? And that because he, remember, was saying that he didn't like Black women and he never dated them. And that was something he said later on, when he was a lot younger. I believe he was still in high school or something when he made those comments and everything. But again, people's preference is what it is, right? That's their preference, whatever they do. But does the young man deserve justice for what happened to him? And does his family deserve justice? I think they do. I think they deserve to know the truth about what really transpired. And without an actual investigation, how can they ever get to the bottom of it? How can they seek justice for their loved one? So the Miami Police Department previously said that on April 3rd, officers responded to a report of a stabbing at the One Paraiso luxury building around 5 p.m., where they found Abunzali, who worked in cryptocurrency, with a knife wound. A female was located on scene and interviewed by detectives, police said. Now, did she really call the 911, or she just called the police? Because it says that he was transported to Jackson Memorial Hospital, where he was later pronounced, unalive, dead. While the details of the Abunzali death remain unclear, a police spokesperson previously, the Daily Beast, that the pair had been involved in a physical altercation prior to the attack. Now, local media reports also indicated that Clenny was detained at the scene to be taken to a mental health facility under the state's Baker Act, which allows police to involuntarily commit an individual for up to 72 hours. Now, again, the attorney is insisting that she acted out of self-defense. And we have always offered to self-surrender if charges were filed in an effort to begin the legal process of clearing her of the charges, is what her attorney is saying. Now, also her attorney went further to tell the Daily Beast on Wednesday, noting that this is an absolute injustice to charge a victim of domestic violence and human trafficking with the crime. Courtney was clearly defending herself. Now, I want to stop right here for a moment, because you know what? A lot of times, and I want to say this, when it comes to domestic violence against men, a lot of times it's not taken seriously. A lot of times police officers, just from examples, when I was studying, getting my BA, and we were talking about domestic violence, and it affects not just women, but also men. But it's never been taken serious when it comes to men. And when men call the police department, men don't always tell either. But when they do call the police, call 911, a lot of times some of the officers that have shown up, just from the examples that we had, case studies, they laughed at them, they mocked them, and they didn't believe them. And they believed the woman over the man, especially when the woman cried crocodile tears. And this is not to mock any real victims, but there are men that are real victims also. And I am aware of that just from having brothers, that there have been some women that some of my brothers have dated that were, aggressors and hitting on them, and they got away from them. And I thank God for that they have moved away from that, and they're living their best life with their new wives or new partner, new wives, because not partners, excuse me, but new wives, and raising their children and things like that, and grandchildren. But however, there have been cases where men were really, violated in some horrendous ways, and the women got away with it, or they cried, and the police officers, either believe them and don't take the men serious, or look at them and say, you're the strong one, you're the big one, so how can she hit on you and beat on you? Or they will take both of them to jail for a cooling off period. And so we see that a lot. And even with the liberal feminist movement wanting the world, people in the world to believe that women don't lie, and that we should believe all women. And I disagree with that, because we have to look at the facts. We have to look at everything. There has to be some type of investigation to see what transpired in situations. And we do know that there is a lot of domestic violence when it comes to women, but we also know what Miss Casey is saying, that men, don't always tell, because they don't want to look weak. They don't want to be shamed and mocked, and definitely not dehumanized, or the stigma that this is a weak man. And a man is not weak if they report domestic violence. Actually, they are smart to report it, because then when they report it, they can open up a legitimate investigation to see who really the aggressor is. Because men, you have to be smart enough to rise above pride and ego, so you don't catch a case when you know very well you were not the aggressor and the woman was. So I applaud men when they do call 911, when they do file a police report, when a woman is being the aggressor, because you shouldn't give up your livelihood and to be placed in an entrapment position when you know that you've done nothing but tried to do right and tried to be the man that God has called you to be, or whatever you believe in. Okay. And that's true too, that women are out here trapping men with babies that are not. And that's something, that I've talked about before, very briefly, about women, trapping men and putting cases on men, especially child support cases on men by default, where men are not the actual father. And there are women that have actually literally lied about who the father was, when they knew very well that they knew who the father was, or they knew it wasn't that person that they put a case on. And so, and that's true. And so men have to stand up and fight for their rights too, to get the child support laws amended. We're not saying take away child support laws, but we're saying amend the laws, so that men are not automatically placed in a default position of child support if they have never received notification. because all it takes for men, and men, you need to hear this, is that a woman only has to file paperwork with the last address of where you resided. And so if you resided on 21st Street, and that's where she, hi, Mr. J, and that's where, welcome to the chat, and that's where she had the last address, then that's what the court is going to file. And what happens is, if you don't get that notice that you are being, you are being subpoenaed for child support, guess what's going to happen? It can go into a default, and then you are responsible more than likely for a child that is not yours, and it is difficult for you to fight that, because in certain states the judge, especially if a child is a certain age, will not, because they always look at the money collected is for the best interest of taking care of the child, and the woman never is held accountable for paternity fraud and collecting fraudulent child support benefits if the child is not the man's. And a lot of times it comes out that is not the child's father. And sometimes women don't even know who the father is, and they also, let me not forget this, they also pick and choose who they want the father to be. When you see that it's a man that's, got his stuff together, he's a good man, he's working hard, he's putting money aside, he's doing the things that he's supposed to do. There are women that will pick the man, a good man, over a dusty man, but the dusty man may be the actual father of that child, but yet still the woman will pick the best man to be for that child. And that's something that is very grievous, and I don't agree with that 100%, because I know that men in certain states are placed in jail. Yes, they will arrest them. They'll take their driver's license from them. And so I'm aware of those experiences and situations because I've seen it firsthand. And so, hi, good morning. Oh, hi. Hey, how you doing? Oh, Only Male Cruz. Good to see you back again. And so that is true. When it comes down to this, when it comes to men, and catching cases. So men, you have to be smart enough to make sure that your address is updated. And if you are a potential or possible father, make sure that you are on the lookout, because you might catch a case. You just might. And you don't want to catch a case when that child is actually not your father. You're not the father of that child, because again, default child support cases happen a lot of the times and then men have spent time in jail and they have lost a lot. And then it comes out in a court hearing that man was not the father. And some men have lost their livelihood, and have still, after so many years, they still have an outstanding child support balance. And they're not even the father. And the child could be grown in their 20s now. So that happens. But getting back to what I was talking about too, when it comes back to domestic violence, this woman, she had 2 million followers on Instagram, 25,700 on TikTok, and 41,000 more on Twitter, describes herself as that chick on the internet. But she's also that chick on the internet that murdered a 27-year-old man. I'm not sure if he was 26 at the time, but he's 27 according to the article. And she murdered this man. And so she went by the name of Courtney Taylor. And so her OnlyFans account, she describes herself as a proud Texan, full-time fitness model, and foodie living with 2 dogs, Jesse and Ranger. And she had just moved to Miami. So she said she needed their positive vibes. And so she said the change was scary at the time for a little Texas girl, but she didn't live like a little Texan girl, right? She was with this man and she took his own life, and then she bragged about it. She kind of like boasted about it after it happened. What is this going on? Oh, your husband's nephew, Casey? You know what? He should take one. He really should take one to clear his name. If he's the father, then, but if he isn't, or there's a doubt, he should go ahead and take that DNA, because I'm telling you, that's a lot of the courts in different states will allow a woman to file child support papers, a case on a man with the most information. So if a woman has a lot of information, she can file that case. And there are times that a man is not the father and is not the father, but if they have the most information about that man, they can file paperwork, a case. So it's also important for men to not allow women to have access to their personal information. So if you're a man and you are with a woman and you all have been intimate and you're at this woman's house or she's at your house, but probably you're at her house or her apartment, and she gets a hold of your wallet. Say you fall asleep, or maybe you all been drinking and you fall asleep. She can get information from you. So you have to be very careful about what you do when it comes to protecting your information, men. Protect your information. Do not allow people to just recklessly have your information, and especially if you're dealing with a woman that you're intimate with. And you also need to use protection. I know I hear this a lot about men not wanting to use protection. It doesn't feel right. It's unnatural. But men, I'm telling you, would you rather have a life of turmoil with a case placed on you when you know you're not the father and have to deal with foolishness and even, sexual assault? Would you rather deal with all of that, or would you rather deal with protecting yourself and living a happy, joyous life without the drama? Because if you don't protect yourself, that can happen to you. Yep, you got to sue, and you know what, Mr. J, and that's not that, and that doesn't even if you sue, doesn't mean you're going to get your money back, because the judge may say, well, it went to the child. But I think it's wrong. I think it's an injustice when it's determined that the woman lied. The man should be able to win his case. The man, thank you, Mr. Mayor, Only Cruz. But the man should win his case when it's determined that a woman has committed, child support fraud. He should win his case. He should prevail, and she should be made to pay the money back, because it's an injustice to men. And we see it happening a lot, and it's crazy, but it happens a lot. And Casey, Miss Casey, what you're saying is you personally don't trust the female that your nephew has been dealing with, and that's true too. Sometimes we can see things that other people cannot see, because a lot of times we can't see the forest for the trees, right? And when we step back from the forest, then sometimes we can see what we haven't been able to see. Oh, yeah. And even with that, what he's going through, where women have made up stories and have lied, and I believe they have lied when it comes to RSK. I do believe that. I believe I've seen so much that's going on that I still believe that whoever you believe in, I still believe that it's going to be exposed. It always is exposed. And it happens in his time, not our time. When it comes to God, it's in God's time that it's exposed. And we got to keep having the talks. We got to keep coming out. We don't have to go back and forth with anyone, but encourage people to do their research, encourage them to read the transcripts, or to go to channels that, that don't participate in shenanigans, but just put the truth out there. And a lot of people are seeing the truth. And it's unfortunate that the media does not want to do updated stories to show the truth. And that's a sad thing when we have the media coming out lying and then are not vetting the information. And then when the truth does come out, they still don't want to put the truth out there. But again, the truth will always set people free. And if you go pursue the truth, guess what? It's better for you, because if you get caught up in something, you want that support and you want people to believe you and give you your due process and to believe the facts and not just made up lies. And that's true too, where women financially abuse men. And we've seen that happen too, even in domestic violence situations where men have lost everything and they wind up on the street because the woman gets everything, and including the house and all this stuff, when in fact men need to educate themselves and start to fight back the way that they need to fight back. And that's true. You know what? And that's true too, Mr. J. The government does that, and they'll use people to. They'll actually use people to put cases on others. We've seen that happen. Look at these dusty people on YouTube that are sitting up here, steady going back and forth, making up stories. Look at Larry. We see the stuff that's going on, and and using people to put cases on other people to destroy their careers. And I think that men have to start speaking up. And if it takes to go to Washington, if it takes to pursue your governors in your own state and getting in touch with the state attorney's offices to make sure and to have these discussions at a higher level, and still having to vote. And some people say, well, I'm not voting, but voting is important in your own community, because a lot of times the laws are passed in the community, they're passed at the lower level, and somehow these bills get pushed up. And the higher they get pushed up and nobody's talking about it, nobody's fighting it, nobody's speaking out, they say, well, if they don't care, we don't either. We're just going to push this bill and we're going to pass it. Look at how far they're going back to try to say that women that have never received justice. Look how far they're going back. But look at the men that have been abused. How far are they going back with the men? It's got to be equality when it comes down to some of these laws, because the law should be effective. Hi, good morning, One Pap. Welcome. The law should be effective to make sure that humanity is being served, not one or the other, but humanity is being served. And when you look at these laws that have been passed, it's a disservice and it's an injustice towards men when men are not getting the justice that they should have, or even the due process. Because if you think about it, as soon as a story runs that this man assaulted me, or this man did this or did that, you have crabs in the barrel type of people jumping on bandwagons and running with stories instead of vetting it and waiting. And so a lot of times men are already accused in the public eye, in public opinion. And that's so a disjustice towards men. And so with this woman and her attorney out here, with this woman that's up here saying that, that Clenny, her name is Clenny, that she's innocent from stabbing this man, I don't believe she's innocent. And I think that there should be an investigation, and I think that it should go to trial unless something come out in the discovery where they put her in an interrogation room and she says, yeah, I did it. And it comes out that it really wasn't self-defense. It was a crime of passion or something. But no, this family has the right to seek justice as well. And so I'm glad that they arrested her. And it's another thing is they're always trying to say that it's mental health. We don't know, if it's mental health or not. But at the end of the day, they need to go through the process to make sure that people are fit to stand trial, and that they're not just claiming mental health to get off of murdering someone and getting away with it. So, so she does need to be arrested. And thank God that the family is going to hopefully get the justice that they, deserve from, their son, or brother, cousin. He could have been a nephew or anything, from him being murdered. So, and some people are in here, like some friend said, well, I've seen him hit her. So maybe it was a toxic relationship. We really don't know what was going on because I wasn't there. But according to the story, again, her attorney is trying to say that it was self-defense. And then it says that from what we've personally experienced between the both of them, we believe that Christian wouldn't put her in a position where she would need to stab him to protect herself. And this is a neighbor told the same outlet that they had witnessed unbluntly swinging her about a week before the incident. But we don't know if she had done something to him. We don't know that. We really don't know what took place with that. And then another friend told the outlet that the friend group in Miami was now ruling from the news, and the reality that both Clenny and Umbonsely were lost to them. And we didn't think this is how far it would have gone. So there is a GoFundMe campaign, and in that GoFundMe campaign, Umbonsely's family said the unconscionable tragedy occurred just a week before his 28th birthday, and that it is hard to believe someone's selfish act ripped Christian away from the world, describing Umbonsely as an extremely compassionate person with an infectious smile that could light up any room. The family added that they were seeking justice for the heinous act of violence. The family did not immediately respond to the Daily Beast request for comment, and they go on further to say it is not enough to say we are shocked and hurting. We are utterly devastated, the family said in the online campaign. His murder leaves many unanswered questions and creates a void that can never be fixed or filled, not even with time. So they want justice for their family member, and they have a right to seek that justice. And now moving on to another story, and I want to get you all opinion on this as well, because this is a story, that definitely is worth speaking about as well. And it's about this mother and her daughter, and her daughter was 17 at the time. Now, this is out of Nebraska, so there's different laws in different states regarding unaliving. And I say unaliving, but the termination of life, termination of a pregnancy. And so here we are now, with this Roe versus Wade, right? And I want to know what men and women's opinion are in the chat on this, because it's important, because a lot of times men didn't have a say so when a young woman got pregnant or a woman got pregnant, and the man, they either kept it a secret or they hid it, or it was the woman's decision or family decision to terminate the pregnancy, and the man had no say so. It was like he didn't have rights. And I recall a story last year that I read where this man and woman was in a relationship. It was an interracial relationship, and the woman started keeping secrets from him and telling him everything was going well with the pregnancy and all those different things. But in fact, she was working behind the scenes to keep things from him. And what she did is her and her parents came up with a scheme to have the baby adopted. And so his friends at some point had encouraged him to register his name in a database in some type of registry. And he didn't want to do it at first, but they convinced him to do it, so he did it. And when the baby had been placed in a family, in a family, a white family, it was a couple, and they had been with this child for a while. And when the adoption was going to be finalized, they ran the name through, they did a search to make sure that there was not the father, because, and it came up his name, that he was attached to this baby, and so he, DNA, all of this stuff came about, and she was caught in so many different lies. And in the end, they went to court, and in the end, he did get custody of his child. If anyone remember that story, so all I'm saying is that men have rights also. But here we're talking about a Nebraska teen and mother facing charges in an termination of life related case that involved obtaining their Facebook messages. So Facebook Meta is also involved in this, is involved in this because they had to release those messages between the mother and the daughter. And it says a Nebraska mother and her 18-year-old daughter. But at the time, the daughter was 17. And they're facing multiple charges in a case that involved police obtaining Facebook messages between the two that authorities allege show evidence of an illegal self-managed medication termination of life, as well as plan to hide the remains. And Norfolk police began investigating Celeste Burgess and her mother, Jessica Burgess. In late April, following concerns, Celeste had prematurely delivered a stillborn fetus. And so this is according to court documents. So after the two were initially charged, law enforcement continued to investigate and obtain Facebook messages between Celeste and Jessica that appeared to make reference to termination of life pills and burning the evidence. Now, this is according to a copy of the conversation, which is now being used in the case. And let me stop right there. They can pull social media comments and statements off of social media. They can use social media videos. We see that happening, in this one case that's so, this one well-known case of RSK case where they're using social media videos and comments and statements. And so here we are where they have pulled information And it says police claimed that after the body of the fetus was exhumed, it appeared to have thermal injuries, indicating that it may have been burned after the pregnancy was terminated. Now, that's bad, to burn the body of fetus after the, my gosh. And this is what we probably are going to be maybe hearing more cases like this. But again, talking about this because it is important to be able to bring awareness and to talk about these things. But it also says that the case began before the Supreme Court overturned Roe versus Wade in June. But it highlights an issue digital privacy experts and some lawmakers have been raising alarms about in recent months, because they were also talking about, and they had interviewed certain digital experts, I guess they're about this, and how would they handle it? How would certain agencies handle digital privacy when it comes to what's put out on social media? And so they have been raising alarms about this. If anyone has been following this about the privacy digital information, and so law enforcement in some states could use people's personal data to enforce laws prohibiting termination of pregnancy, a practice which experts worry could increase the following Supreme Court's ruling. Now, experts have warned that prosecutors could, for example, serve search warrants to tech companies. And that's what I was trying to say earlier, to tech companies as well, requesting location data. And that can happen. And I think, isn't that what happened with the burning of the car with the Clarys? They searched Google or something with that. If someone can share that and confirm that. That's what I guess so, Mr. J. And I was wondering too, I was having a conversation with a good friend of mine who was a veteran as well, female veteran, and she was sharing with me too. She was like, and I told her, I said, I don't know, maybe somebody told some snitches out there, because this, how did they even find this information that that's what was going on, on Facebook between, two people, some conversations. But anyway, they can search history or call logs to help corroborate whether someone had or aided in an abortion. The Burgess case shows how that has, in some cases, already been happening to enforce existing laws. Now, as I said, Celeste was 17 at the time of the alleged incident, and she initially told investigators that she had unexpectedly miscarried a stillborn fetus and that she and her mother later buried the fetus. So they didn't even bother to contact, she didn't go to the hospital. They didn't contact 911. And that might be something that might come out, eventually in the discovery or, during the court case, because again, they didn't even notify anyone, the proper authorities that she had miscarried and that they had buried the fetus. And so, and this was according to an affidavit in support of a search warrant. Okay, because they wanted to get a search warrant. So they was trying to get evidence that will support a search warrant. Right. I believe that, Casey. Yeah, people need to stop putting their personal business all over social media. Why didn't she just talk to her daughter, maybe over the phone or something? Why put it on social media, especially when you got this big controversy of Roe, versus Wade that's been overturned. And there's a big, controversy about, women reproductive rights and things like that. So when interviewed by the police detective, and this is the 17-year-old, she scrolled through her messages on her Facebook Messenger account in an attempt to surface the date of her miscarriage. So which police said led them to believe that there might be more messages with specifics about the case and to seek a search warrant according to court documents. Now, the public defender's office representing Celeste Burgess, who is being tried as an adult, they're trying her as an adult, declined to comment. Their attorney representing Jessica Burgess, who is the mother, Bradley Ewald, also declined to comment. So right now they're probably trying to get their case together, their defense together. So they couldn't comment right away. And it's best not to comment if you don't know, because you don't want to put the information out there to already be against you. Now, this is what happened in this. Investigators served Meta, Facebook parent company, with a search warrant on June 7th for information pertaining to the accounts of Celeste and her mother. And now Facebook turned over the results of the search warrant within 2 days. The data provided by the company included over 250 MB of data related to Celeste's Facebook account and more than 50 MB, you know what that is, of data about Jessica's account, such as account information, images, audio and visual recordings, messages, and other data court documents show. So see, they can use all of this by able, pulling all this information. And so the data included direct message exchanges between Celeste and Jessica 2 days prior to the miscarriage stillbirth that suggested they received pills. So I believe in this case, when I was reading it, that the mother ordered the pills for her, the end of life, termination of life pills, and made plans for how to use them. Wow, how to use them and what to do with the evidence, according to a signed affidavit in support of an additional search warrant by Detective Ben McBride of the Norfolk Police Investigations Unit. So they had all of this information, and that gets back to what you're saying, Miss Casey. They had all this information on Facebook going back and forth about how she ordered the pills and how they were going to be used and what they were going to do after the fact once the termination of pregnancy was performed. Now, in a Tuesday night statement on Twitter, responding to a story about the Burgess case, Meta spokesperson Andy Stone said nothing in the valid warrants we received from local law enforcement in early June prior to the Supreme Court decision mentioned a termination of life. In a post Tuesday on his website titled "Correcting the Record on Meta's Involvement in Nebraska Case," Meta said court documents indicate that police were at that time investigating the alleged illegal burning and burial of a stillborn infant. Now, you cannot burn, you cannot do that. And we know that you shouldn't be doing that. You cannot do that. And maybe they might focus on that as well, the illegal burning, and then the burial of a stillborn infant without the authorities being notified that this is what transpired. And so there's going to be some charges that they are going to be seeking against this mother and the daughter, this young woman, unfortunately, but that's what's going to happen because there are some things that you did that more than likely you will be charged for. Now, I don't know if they'll plead guilty and they'll throw out some of it, but this right here of the illegal burning and burial, that's something that will be frowned upon, obviously. And so the warrants were accompanied by non-disclosure orders, which prevented us from sharing information about them. The orders have now been lifted. And so the affidavit filed by McBride, the detective investigating the Burgesses, requesting approval of the search warrant to Facebook, noted that he would be seeking evidence related to prohibited acts with skeletal remains, according to court documents obtained by CNN Business. Now, after initial request to Facebook, prosecutors filed an additional search warrant on June 16th that requested evidence of internet searches or purchase of medications used for miscarriage, among other things. 13 technology devices belonging to the Burgesses were also seized in a response to that warrant, according to the court documents. Now, I could count how many I might have. That's a lot. So maybe they have, 13 devices. Wow. Okay. So in June, Celeste and Jessica were each charged with one felony count of prohibited acts with human skeletal remains, one misdemeanor count of concealing the death of another person, and one misdemeanor count of false information. Both have pleaded not guilty to all three, and trials have been set for later this year. After the police obtained data from the two search warrants, Jessica was later also charged with 2 additional felonies. And that's the other thing that I was saying is there may be additional charges that they will be seeking because it's one of them is inducing an illegal abortion and performing, and this is again, this termination of life as someone other than a licensed physician, other than a licensed physician, to which she also pleaded not guilty. So and this is another thing, it was a 22-year-old man that was also, he was issued a citation in relation to the case for allegedly concealing the death of another person, according to a May police press release. Now, I'm wondering, and I don't know this, I don't know this at all, but I'm wondering if the 22-year-old, when I was looking at this story and reading it, I'm wondering if the 22-year-old has anything to do with this. What could he have been the father of the fetus of the, could he have been? Because he concealed it and he knew about it, according to them. And so they issued him a citation, and he pleaded no contest to a misdemeanor, according to a report from the Lincoln Star Journal. Now, the case was earlier reported by the Lincoln Star, the Forbes, and the Vice, if you want to go back and read it. And I put the it in the comments, in my description about the report where I'm receiving it from CNN Business. Now, Nebraska, this is the other thing. At the time, the 17-year-old was 28 weeks pregnant. Now, in Nebraska, they currently prohibit terminations of life after 20 weeks. After 20 weeks. And that was a law that had been in place since Roe versus Wade was overturned. So she was 28 weeks pregnant when her pregnancy ended. So court documents allege. Now that there, it's a body. Should have spent the money with a doctor. Right. I mean, and then maybe they would have been off the hook and the doctor would have been on the hook if it had been, outside of the law of the state of Nebraska. But the whole thing is that exactly, Mr. J, they're going to have to deal with that now. And then it says that although the Burgess were charged before Roe versus Wade was rolled back and the protection would not have applied to the women's actions following the end of the pregnancy, the case demonstrates how private information, such as direct messages on social media, could be used to enforce laws prohibiting termination of life. So in 2018, a Mississippi woman was also indicted by a grand jury for second-degree murder after an in-home pregnancy loss, after law enforcement pointed to her internet search results, such as a termination of life pills. Although the charges were ultimately dropped, Captain Michael Bauer of the Norfolk Police Division said in an email to CNN Business that officers and detectives may not comment on cases outside of court. And that's true. If it's not in the scope of your job, you shouldn't be talking about it outside of court. It should be really left to the courts. And that's true, because if you think about it, all the talking that has happened where people didn't know what they were talking about, people made up stories, there was rumors, people been talking about all types of stuff. And now you see we have a person incarcerated based on just running their mouth, but not really having real facts. Okay. And so I think so. I mean, Mr. Only Male Cruz, yeah, I think so. I think that there will be more of these. Yes, I do. Since the overturn, because there are a lot of liberal feminist groups out here, and there's a lot of women that do believe that their reproductive rights are at risk, and that they have been taken away from them, their choice to, choose or deny life. I do believe there's going to be more of those. And you've seen the radicals out there. I've seen them. And I've even heard women say, I saw a video where this woman said, it was a woman asking, what do you think about this? This was a few weeks back. And she said, I had one. She was asked, have you ever had one? She said, yes. And she said she would have one over and over and over and over and over until she's ready to be a mother and raise children. And then there was another woman that said, yes, I've had one. And yes, I would consider having another one. So you have some out here using it for birth control, which I disagree with that. I think you have to be responsible as a young woman or a woman. I also believe that you have to make better choices when it comes down to it. And you know why? Because God placed women in a special position to be able to have children. So if you choose to do it, that is between you and whoever you believe in. That's between you. I'm not going to get into that with you or about what your beliefs are. I'm not going to degrade, condemn, dehumanize you. That is what you do. I'm not ever going to do that. But what I am going to say is, if you don't want to, we have to protect ourselves at all costs, because we're the ones that can be impregnated if we do not use protection ourselves. And that's the thing about that. So if you choose to not use protection, that's again between you and your partner that you're with, but then those are consequences that you're going to have to face. And that's all I can say on that, because I'm not here to bash or condemn or say nothing negative about what a woman's choice is. But at the same time, there are consequences if you violate the laws and they find out about it. And if you're on social media putting your information out there, private information, guess what's going to happen? They're going to come after you, and they're going to use that in these cases that they're bringing up. You will catch a case. And this woman and her daughter have caught a case, and now they're facing charges because of that. So now they have to go through the process of due process, the discovery, and all of that, and go through probably a trial, because they are now pleading, they have pleaded not guilty. And so again, you know, that's up to the woman that's in that situation, you know. And I think that there's a lot more, you know, I think there's a lot more to it, because what happens if a woman is, you know, sexually assaulted and violated, like the 10-year-old, you know, incest, you know, we got to look at those cases. And there was a politician, and forgive me, I don't remember his or recall his name. He didn't believe that a woman should terminate terminate a pregnancy, even if that has happened to her. And we're talking, this is a 10-year-old that she traveled to Indiana. And so there are some circumstances that really are something that we as women and men have to reflect on and think about it, because it's really it's a touchy situation. It's touchy. And you know, we know that what the Bible says, and everybody doesn't believe in the Bible, but we know what the Bible says. Yeah, you know what, Mr. J, it is. It's very trying. It's a lot. It's traumatic a lot of times. You know, it's disturbing. And I always say, you know, when it gets to be too much with all the stuff that's going on, we have to take a break from the chaos. We have to get back in self-care and take care of ourselves and reflect on the good things in life. Take care of our families, educate our families, our children, if we're still raising children, educate them. You know, bring them up to more than a surface level of awareness. You know, embrace them, love on them, let them know that they're loved, they're cared for, they're valued. You know, they have a light that they can allow to shine, that can shine on others. But to take care of them and to teach them, you know, to protect themselves and to value themselves. And don't just be out here recklessly participating in situations that can get you caught up in things, because there is a lot of situations, and it's not easy. I mean, like, you know, like I said, there are women that's going full force. You know, we had in Riverside County just a group. God, what was the name? I can't think of the group. Wait a minute. Rise Up. There's a Rise Up. And then I think it's called, the other one was, I think, the Revolution. And just a week or two ago, they actually used paint and chalk to deface the historical courthouse in Riverside, city of Riverside, which is in Riverside County. And what happened is there were some people charged and released, and there were some that were not released on their own recognizance. And so now there's a battle between the chief of police and one of the female city council members. And she's saying that the chief police is overreaching, basically. And so is overreaching. And first of all, even if the paint was washable, they shouldn't have been down there defacing any property. Period, point blank. Come on. I mean, I understand that you want to send a message, but they're fighting with the wrong people. The city council didn't check. I mean, the governor, I mean, when you really look at it, that's not something that the lower level politicians, they didn't take that away from the women's rights. They didn't do that. That was at the Supreme Court. And so when you look at why they're, you know, that they were trying to send a message, but you got to look at who you should be really targeting as far as and sending the message to. if you want to get justice, or you feel like your rights have been taken away from you. And I don't mean targeting someone in a negative way. I mean being responsible when you're out there picketing, when you're out there rallying, when you're out there trying to make a statement, being responsible and doing your research and getting involved with passing laws or having laws amended. That's the fight that you need to be doing, instead of getting all in the media, acting like you're big and bad, and making a mockery of yourself. Because if it was me as a woman, that I would not have ever got, and I'll be honest with you, I would have never got out here and told somebody, yeah, I just keep on having, I would not have ever said nothing like that. And if you choose to do that, that's between you. Why would you tell the world what you're going to do? Because everybody see your face now. And some men might run from you, because they might be like, what if you do get pregnant and that person is the father or potential father? And now and what if the man wants that baby and you don't want it? Now here you are trying to take away the rights of a man that has rights as well. So all I'm saying is that women, I know men should be responsible. And I know that we're going to say, well, how come men can't be responsible? Men should be responsible. Women should, because women are the ones that can get pregnant. That's true. They're the ones that can get impregnated. So you got to think about, do I want a baby by this guy? And what if it's a guy you just had, you picked the guy that you really shouldn't have picked? What if it's a Dusty? What if it's a guy that's not out there, I don't know. I see too many things going. I see so much stuff. I'm like, man, oh man, oh man. This stuff is getting crazier by the minute. But anyway, now this is about the tech companies. The giants largely avoided saying how they will respond to law enforcement requests for data that could lead to the prosecution of abortion seekers or providers, even as some of those same companies pledged to help cover travel costs for their own employees who need to travel to obtain legal termination of life services, where they, and asked in June companies, and this is the companies that they had actually asked, was Amazon, Apple, Google, is it Lyft, Facebook parent Meta, Microsoft, Uber, Snap, TikTok, and Twitter. But they did either they didn't respond, or they declined to comment, or didn't directly answer questions about how they would handle data requests targeting, termination of life seekers. And I don't blame them, because if they don't have enough information, they haven't did their research, they don't want to put themselves out there like that. So in many cases, tech platforms may have little choice but to respond to legal requests for information. And that's true. If they're subpoenaed, they're probably going to have to respond. Now, tech companies have broadly said they comply with government data requests, so as long as they are consistent with existing laws. So if there are laws, if there's no laws in place, and they ask, like they're saying, the laws have to exist already for them to be able to respond, under those, otherwise respond. Otherwise, they might reject it and not comply. Now, the rollback of federal abortion protections, combined with the passage of new legislation in numerous states restricting the termination of life, could make it difficult for platforms to fight certain data demands related to the termination of life investigation. So in June, Meta responded to questions about law enforcement requests for data by directing CNN Business to its Transparency Center, and said the company requires government requests to be consistent with the law and with the company's own data policies. And if we determine that a government request is not consistent with applicable law of our policies, we push back and engage the governmental agency to address any apparent deficiencies. If the request is unlawful, for example, overly broad, or legally deficient in any way, we will challenge or reject the request, the company states. So with that being said, I want you to put your comments, put your comments in there, put your comments down below in there about, what you think about these agencies and what they may have to comply. And like they said, they will comply to existing laws. And so do you think that if there are no existing laws, do you think that they can still be held accountable? Because you know how the prosecution, how these they come and they dance around it, and they find all these little loopholes to get in to try to charge and prosecute people and manipulate laws. We've seen that happen a lot. And if we haven't learned something from the RSK case, I'm telling you, do not put your personal business out there that can hold you, hold you accountable for something that you might be at risk for. And I wanted to share with you a story, but I'm not able to. It's not, they might have removed the story. I'm not really sure. Let's see if I can get to this story. It was about a couple, a black couple that actually had a white baby. And some people said it was just an albino baby. How many of you seen that story where it was a couple, a black couple that had a baby, and they said the baby had blonde hair and blue eyes? And looking at this picture of this baby right here, there's a see if you can see it, there is see that there is a couple here that actually had you saw that? Okay. Because I'm not able to pull this up for some reason. Sometimes they take stories away and you can't get to them, or they take them down. But anyway, they were talking about it, and it was a big discussion about how can this happen? How can a black couple have a baby like that? And we know that sometimes babies are born light. Black babies are born very light, and then sometimes people try to say that can't be his baby, but that happens, and then a baby darkens up. When my son was a baby, he was actually light. He was very light, and then he darkened up over time. And if you knew my son and met him, he's actually he's darker than what he really was as a child. And I have a good friend. Her son darkened up because of the state they live in. It's so hot there, but in Vegas. But he actually was a very light child, and both of his parents were dark skinned, and his sister was born dark, but he came out very light. I mean, like very fair. So I wonder, it was a lot of controversy. Some people were saying that's not possible, and that the baby really is black. It was an albino baby, but they just couldn't understand. So it was just a story that was trending, but unfortunately, I'm not able to pull it up. So, but Casey, Miss Casey, that's true. Life must go on. We just need to make healthy, conscious decisions in who we reproduce with. Absolutely. Yeah. And I was reading what Mr. J said, about, yeah, it's too much. And if another thing too, if a man is with a woman and you feel a need to be with that woman to that extent, why are you with her? Some people don't believe in marriage, though. Some people don't. Some people don't believe in getting their tubes tied. They believe in just going through it. But if you're going to do all that, it's probably a good idea. If you're with that person, you're going to continue to have babies by the same person. Why not get married? Why not, get married to that woman? Why not bring children into a legal marital union and raise your children as a family with love, and teaching your children wholesomeness, and teaching them how to take care of themselves, in the manner that, that's good. Because when we see a lot of things going on today, there's a lot of unhealthy things going on. And I have to agree with you, Miss Casey. There's a lot of unhealthy stuff going on. And yeah, that's true. People are living without the fear of God. They don't fear God. And a lot of it, they don't fear anything anymore. They go along with what man says, and they put their trust in man. And and man can't save his own self. We've seen that day in and day out. And we know that sin is a problem that a man cannot solve. Only God can solve sin. But also there is no condemnation, because God's taken that away. If you ask for forgiveness and you repent of your sins, and God is a just and fair God, and he will forgive you. And the only thing that God will not forgive you for is the blasphemy of the Holy Spirit, and there are a lot of plagues. Look at this. Look at the monkeypox that's out here. So how many more plagues are we going to have before people start to see that they need to turn their lives around and start living a life that's wholesome? And getting out of this street crime and killing one another and murdering and all these different things that are happening in this world. And now we're dealing with monkeypox. So you have to be careful out there, my brothers and sisters, my friends and family. people that come to my channel, subscribers, you know, be careful out there. You know, wear your gloves, you know, wash your hands, you know, take care of yourself. Stand back when you speak to one another, and don't touch everything that you know, that you put, you know, we sometimes we naturally touch stuff when we're walking. If we see a rail or we're standing there having a conversation with someone and there's a rail and you naturally touch it, and things like that. And what about counters? Making sure you don't, you know, put, I was in a store the other day and I was going to sit my purse down, and I looked down and I took it and I made sure I didn't put it down yet. Because I thought, you know, with all this stuff going on, and people, not every business is still wiping down their counters, you know, where you see, you know, when business started to open back up after the big C, they were still cleaning and all that. Now you don't even see that anymore. You don't see people cleaning like they used to and washing door handles down. So we have to make sure we have wipes in our, you know, handbag or something in a bag to be able to wipe down, you know, handles before we open the door. And even when you're pumping your gas, they in some of the gas stations, they have gloves up there. Put gloves on. Still pump your gas with gloves. You know, wipe down your steering wheel. You know, because if, you know, your hands touch things, your steering wheels get dirty. So wipe down your steering wheels and keep everything, you know, sanitized. And just be very careful out there. You know, even when you wash your hands in a public restroom, you know, get paper towels and make sure you're not touching after you've washed your hands, and, you know, door handles as you're leaving. It's just a lot of things that we need to do. And even at home, washing things down, but a lot, and your refrigerator handle and doorknobs and things like that, and countertops, just making sure everything is clean and protecting yourself, because there's a lot going on. And, you know, with the monkeypox, they said that is an ABC. You know, it started with the ABC people, and I'll say it like that, the ABC people, instead of, you know, the other acronym. But the ABC people it started with, and now it's spreading. So we have to be very careful, because if you go to the CDC website, it tells you how it can spread. But it started with the ABC people. And so we have to be very careful about who we are dealing with, careful about, you know, and another thing is that one of the things that, as you hear women, not all women, but you hear some women, because I've heard them, saying that they don't mind participating in, you know, these, you know, 3 or more encounters, you know, intimate encounters. And they don't have a problem with that. And got to be very careful, because if you are participating in those type of situations, it's your business, but you can be at risk for a different type of STDs and illnesses and diseases. And one of them you could catch, because what if one of them, you know, is of the ABC, and you decide that you're going to participate with 2 other men or a woman, and the man might be, you know, I'm just saying, and, you know, so you have to be careful getting involved. And people might say, well, it's my business and that's what I like. That's fine, what you like. That's your business. But if you get some type of catch a case, you know, when I say catch a case, I'm talking about a Department of Health case. You know, you're going to have to suffer those consequences and go through the situation on that. Casey, you said that the social media world is depraved. A lot of people don't even go. A lot of people just don't take a lot of things seriously anymore. Right. You know what? I read that somewhere, that another woman said that I was watching a video, and this woman said that I still, even though I've been married for many years, I still go get tested. Because she said, I don't know what my husband is doing when he's not around me, and I, you know, and stuff like that. And so this other guy said, well, if you can't trust your husband, then why are you, you know, even still married? So, you know, people have their own views and controversy out there. But if you want to be safe, it's actually your business, whether you're married or not, to make sure you take care of yourself and get tested and be responsible. And whatever you do, you got to have self-care about yourself. You got to take care of you and make sure, and you got to trust God. Put God first. God should come first. If you believe in God and that's who you believe in, God should come first and be the head of your life. And then if you have a spouse, and then children. Everything but a briefcase of money. Yep. Yep. Right, Mr. J. Yep. I'm telling you, trying to tell you, bro. Woo, But it's been good chatting with you all. I'll be back with my other inspirational messages, but it's good to come out and talk about social issues from a smart perspective and get other, intelligent, responses. It's so important that we keep talking about things because there's a lot going on, like I said, in this world, and we all see it. We're responsible adults, and it can get trying. It can become disheartening, and you just got to take care of you and get exercise. Get out there and exercise. Take in, the sceneries, or if you live by a lake, just get out there, take a drive or take a train ride or a bus ride. Just get out there and, and mind your business that pays you, but get out there and do something that's going to take care of you. Get out there, take care of your kids, just because it's a lot going on. It really is. And when we are out there, sometimes we overlook and miss things, but we got to be alert. We always got to be alert. Stay alert, not drunken with wine, but stay alert. And always remember that you got to be involved, and don't let these laws pass you by, because they're steady passing bills that can harm us, that do not have it. They're not even good for humanity. And so we got to make sure that we're just involved in those things, and that we get out and vote, and that we continue the fight, to stand up for justice and be against injustice. And don't participate. If I can recommend, don't participate in foolishness. Don't go back and forth with folks over. Don't argue with a fool, because when you start arguing with a fool, you become that fool. So don't argue with fools. Stand for what is right. I again thank you all for coming into the chat and sharing this with me. But I'll be back with my cup of hope. That resting in the promises of God's faithfulness. And then with the Joyce Meyer, we are steady talking about that and moving forward with those. I don't always come live because sometimes I don't have time, and then sometimes I come live, and so it just depends. But I still try to give you all inspirational messages. It's always good to see it from a different perspective, and also with the social issues that's going on, and still being inspired by the word of God. So thank you all again. Be blessed. Love you all. Have a beautiful, safe day.